And on behalf of Microsoft, a very warm welcome to our offices here. I don't know how many people have been here before, but this is our UK HQ. You've basically got, I'd say 90%, 95% of Microsoft UK work out of these offices. We have offices in London and Edinburgh, but literally we've got the UK subsidiary, plus quite a lot of European functions here as well. Obviously, Heathrow's just down the road. A lot of people use this as a base to go out and do their jobs around Europe. So my name's Steve Beswick. I run our education business here in the UK. And what I'm going to do over the next sort of 20 minutes is just to give you some context for the day, a bit about what Microsoft is doing, a bit about what our view is and strategic views moving forward. But my job is obviously to run our commercial business across schools, further education and higher education across England, Scotland and Wales. But I get very heavily involved in things like policy making areas. The government are quite interested in us as a company in the UK, not necessarily because we're a big employer, but obviously technology, education, but actually as an ecosystem as well for employability. So, you know, we have Medhurst are one of probably 35,000 partners we've got in the UK that employ something like 400,000 people. So the government are quite interested in us talking to us about that ecosystem of employability in terms of what skills are required for the UK economy, so on and so forth. And policy-wise, we got heavily involved in the change of changing curriculum around computing. So as you see the computing curriculum come through, we were very much a part of that, working with the games industry in the UK, British Computer Society as well. Went to see the government a few years ago, and it probably took only about 2 years for that policy to change. So those are the kind of things we get involved in. And as I say, it's my responsibility to run the education business here in the UK. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about strategy and context, some of the things that we do, and then kind of answering this question, why technology and what our view of that is. And hopefully, I know there's a lot of technical presentations coming up, but I'll just provide some context around why we're trying to do all this stuff in the context of the teaching and learning and how schools are run. I think it's important to understand that Microsoft as a company has been investing in education for a long time. So, you know, right back in the early days with Bill and obviously with Steve, we've continued, and we don't dip in and out of this market. It is a huge investment for us. We obviously sell our products at, you know, heavily discounted prices, and we can do that because we have other businesses that fuel, if you like, our P&L. But, you know, it's a serious commitment. It's a commitment that's been there for 30, 35 years and will continue. And that's the message I want you to take. And actually, in the new era of Satya, it's even more. He's taken even more of an interest in education in the context of technology, to the extent where, you know, he talks to the engineering teams about how we embed learning technology within all of our products. So, you know, whether you're at school or whether you're working for Barclays Bank or Royal Bank of Scotland, whatever, everybody's learning all of the time. And he's challenging our engineers in Seattle and around the world about how do we embed learning technologies into our products today. And over time, as we see these products evolve, you know, in the context of our existing products and maybe new products coming through, how do we do that? So, you know, my boss who works in the States probably spends, you know, has 2 or 3 meetings a month with Satya all around the work that we do in education. Satya was actually in the UK last week, visited a school, and, you know, he's very, very interested in what we're doing. So there's even more focus than we've ever had before. I think it's important you understand Microsoft's going through a lot of transformation. You've probably read about us in the press, but it's really important to understand what are we trying to do in this new world under Satya's leadership. And essentially it's empowering every person and every organisation on the planet to achieve more. And that resonates, I think, quite nicely in the context of education, because it's my job in the UK to make sure every student, every teacher, every person employed in a university or a school is empowered to achieve more. And that doesn't necessarily mean 5 A to C's improvement. It might do to some people, but some of the schools we work with, it might mean that achieving more is the actual child coming to school, right? So we're working in some very interesting projects about how IT can actually be a motivator to come to school, and how we use systems to track whether they got to school. So, you know, achieving more doesn't necessarily mean, you know, the 5 A to C's. And we're doing it across the whole planet. So this isn't an education mission. This is the Microsoft mission. And clearly we do a lot of work in Africa about how we can use IT to drive kids over there to achieve more as well. The world that we are in today, though, and people get mixed up in the press around this is a vision or a mission. This is the world view that we have. The world is going cloud, and you know, we are driving, and you'll see that today, massive investments in our cloud technology. And for those of you that missed it, we announced last week when Satya was here that we are making available in 2016 UK-based data centers. Okay, so today, for those of you who are 365 users today, you know, we've got data centers in Ireland, we've got data centers in Holland. But we announced, and that will be available, and we've got to get all the dates sorted in 2016. There's lots of issues, as we all know, about safe harbour, all those kind of issues. But we think from a government point of view, education and my government colleagues, this is a great investment by the company, both in importance for our business locally, but also the fact that the company sees us as a light ship, if you like, in the work that we do around cloud. So that was a very, very important message from the company last week. But this world we live in, cloud first, and those cloud services orchestrate what is the mobile environment that we all live in today. Mobile first does not mean the mobile phone. Mobile means the environment that we all work in today or in school. And so that's the way we see the world today. And our technology advancements will all be around driving that vision in the context of the worldview that we see today. And so cloud is clearly very important to us, as is driving that mobile experience and making that as seamless as possible, whether you're at school, at home, wherever you are. Okay? I'll put this slide up because you can see on the bottom right, this is the inauguration, I'm changing tact a bit. This is the inauguration, if you like, of Pope Benedict in 2005. You know, and people were there milling around, and he's probably up the top there somewhere with whatever sort of ceremony it is. The whole point about this is just to get across a message that says when the next Pope came along in 2013, you can see things have slightly changed. And I suppose the point I'm making is, you know, the years between, you know, it wasn't that long, between how people kind of, you know, go about their daily lives. And that plays to this mobile first piece, whether it's a mobile device wherever you are, always connected to those cloud services. But it's just an example, if you like, and you'll have your own about how things have changed. It just happens that this was an inauguration of a pope. But I was talking earlier on, even last night at the football match, you know, people were recording all of the the national anthems, the French national anthem at Wembley, all this kind of stuff. It's that very much a mobile first world that we live in today. I think, you know, when I go around schools, you know, I see so much waste, if I'm honest. And I'm saying that, I've been on stage with Google and Apple, and they actually say the same thing. You know, we see a lot of this around the world of you know, I'm just going to give a device to everybody. You know, don't care what it is or whatever, just going to get a device out there. And it is so much more than just technology, okay? And I think we all understand that. But the message from Microsoft is to say, look, you've got to deeply think about this. Where we see great IT going on is with great technical people, but also great head teachers driving that leadership, if you like, around change management in terms of the use of IT. But the message from Microsoft is it's got to be deeply thought through. You know, we need partners like Medhurst to help you on the technical maps to get there. It's not necessarily that easy, and it doesn't happen overnight. But the message from Microsoft is, you know, technology is not the answer to everything, right? We're a tech company. We think it's got a big part to play now, but it's not the answer to everything. And we do see, unfortunately, still quite a lot of waste out there. I mean, people are still, if you like, you know, paying, you know, for our licenses where sometimes they can get it free of charge. You know, so to a certain extent, I'm trying to get my commercial business to go down rather than up. But look, there is a lot of waste out there, but boy, is there an opportunity here in the context of the learning opportunity that there is. You know, we do see some fantastic work going on with schools simple uses of OneNote, for instance, in the context of a teacher using that to feed back to a pupil. And the problem that the teacher had was that they looked at their class notebook, their exercise book, and just went down, did I get an A, B, or a C? And I'll move on. Didn't look at any of the feedback. And what this teacher came to us and said, look, this is crazy. Not only am I lugging all these books around, but nobody's looking at the feedback. And the example goes that through OneNote, you can put a voice file in there and use the pen technology to underline, saying your use of adjectives was really good. So you're at home listening to your homework feedback from your teacher, so it's very personal. It's very simple to do. And the teacher didn't put the grade on the OneNote because they just go down to the bottom. They had to listen to all of the feedback and annotation as they went through the essay, and then at the end they say you got an A, B, or a C. And she felt this was just fantastic use of technology, something that's very simple, but we do think there's learning opportunities. And learning opportunities in these kind of 3 areas: productive, intelligent, and personal. I'll just go through these very quickly. We do have a broad, obviously, portfolio of technologies out there. You'll see here, we pretty much lead now in education with products like OneNote, 365, OneDrive, and products like Sway. Clearly, there's a lot of Office still used in there in terms of Excel and Word, but there are a lot of other technologies as well. You'll see more coming out from us on Minecraft. That's an interesting technology. We purchased Minecraft probably some 18 months ago for $2.5 billion. We made some announcements about that last week in the States, and you'll see more as we integrate Minecraft into our portfolio. What was interesting is, the use of Minecraft, not just in secondary but primary, is massive in the context of how kids are using it, and we're deeply thinking about how we use that as a technology moving forward. I think this is a really important area. So we talk a lot about teaching, learning, and the use of technology on the front end, but in my view, people have got to really think about how do you capture data that's going on the front end, whether that's assessment, whether that's people clicking around, doing tests, whatever. How are you capturing that? And that's, in my view, vital in the context of how you make interventions moving forward about, did Johnny get 5 out of 10? How many times did he get it wrong before he got it right? Where's that data going to be captured? And then how do you use that data to do learning interventions and actually evidence-based learning at the end of the day through the use of technology? Final one is the personalized bit. You're going to see from Microsoft a lot more around more personal. Obviously, we've got the Microsoft Band. I'm not saying that's going to be used in schools straight away, but this whole idea of the merging, if you like, of the consumer area with people going to school. So it's a bit unlike going to work, where sometimes there's a purely locked down environment. We see teachers taking what they've got at home, and certainly students taking what they've got at home and bringing it into the school. You'll see a lot more around our Cortana technology in the context of using that as a very much a simplified way of making life a lot easier for kids as they move forward in terms of their learning. So those are the kind of 3 areas that we look at. And as I say, to really emphasize, you're going to see a lot more merging technology-wise. You see touch today. We believe that inking has got a massive role to play in the context of the device and how people learn. But also now you're going to see a lot more voice coming in as well through those Cortana products as we roll those out, and seeing those and how they're applicable in an educational context. So we believe fundamentally that as you go forward with your IT, these 3 things you've got to think about really quite a lot in the context of not just today, but obviously in the future as well. And if you look at it in terms of how technology has been used, a lot of technology historically has been used just to automate what's already there. Okay, so, don't get me wrong, Wikipedia is a great learning resource, but ultimately it's a very rich encyclopedia that's online. All right, and so we think moving forward now, the barriers in terms of what the technology can do, rather than writing the lesson to what the technology can do, you keep the lesson that you really want and expand that lesson because of the technology that's available. So those barriers are coming down. And here's just an example of how you can do that using the various different devices that are out there today. And this will get richer and richer and richer. And so, again, schools, we think, have got to deeply think about this in the context of how they're going to use this moving forward. And as I said before, we do think that the pen and the technology that we've got around our surface area products is very important in the context of, not just the typing, but the writing as well. There's a lot of evidence to show that people will learn better if they're writing. And how, when you look at the pen technology that we've got, that we've deeply invested in, it really is amazing in the context of how easy it is to write and how easy that is to integrate in the learning process. And Microsoft as a company, obviously, we're now very much in the hardware business. We work very closely with our OEMs like HP and others. But I suppose the point I'm making here is, and we were a little bit late to market in terms of some of the low-end devices, but you have a choice now from something like £70 right up to a Surface Book in the context of what you can use. And choosing the right device for the right age group, for the right environment that you're in is clearly important. But we feel from a Microsoft standpoint, you've got a huge choice now, and you can do all that with a Windows operating system, and as Medhurst do for us, if you like, looking at that in the context of security manageability and making things simpler than loads and loads of different types of devices. The second point here is really important because we've got a lot of customers where one customer, the IT director in charge of a big academy group, he gets phone calls from his head teacher. He says, I need 400 iPads, right? And a lot of the times, okay, we'll get you 400 iPads. But what the IT director did was he actually said, well, what do you want to do with those iPads? Okay, and what the head teacher then said, well, I want to do this, want to do that. And they did a whole piece of consulting work in the context of when somebody wants an iPad, what do they actually want? And they want to do three things, right? They want to consume things, so a website, and they want to consume stuff. And to be honest, iPads do that great, we do it great, Android does that great. Everybody consumes websites in the context of teaching and learning. But when you look at things like, teachers want to be able to create stuff, lesson plans, that's very much at the heart of what Microsoft does in the context of productivity tools. And then the collaboration bit is I want to be able to share those documents. I want to be able to collaborate with my students. I want to collaborate with other teachers. And technologies we've got like Yammer, really drive that forward. So when you look collectively at all the portfolio of products that we've got and the devices that we have that can run all these things, then we're seeing quite a big change in the marketplace in the context of the use of, our technology vis-a-vis iPads. Now, I'm not here to diss Apple. They're a great company. The iPad's a great product. But in the context of teaching and learning, we're seeing a lot of people now wanting a keyboard, wanting integration, wanting to be able to consume, create and collaborate with one device rather than I've got an iPad and I've got a desktop and whatever. So we think there's a lot of opportunity for us as we move forward. This just highlights that point I was making earlier on. I want you to really think a key message from us about how, Apple, ourselves, and Google, we talk a lot about the teaching and learning. And that's a very, very important aspect, and we'll obviously compete in that area in the context of what I've just said. But I do believe that people really deeply need to think about how they're capturing data, how they're capturing, analytics. When you look at things like the Power BI systems within 365 that can help with that, in surfacing lots and lots of very, very big data and how you synthesize that to make a learning intervention. Not only the back-end systems, but obviously, systems like, management information systems that we work very closely with a lot of the ISVs in this area as well. And just having one simple ecosystem that, ultimately can be a Microsoft ecosystem, both for your back-end and the front end. And this final couple of slides now, as you look at the cloud environment that we've spoken about already, and you're going to hear more about in a minute. Again, I think it's really important that people strategically understand our direction of travel. We are making massive investments in obviously our infrastructure with the data centers that we spoke about. We have lots and lots of assets, if you like, that are cloud-based assets, of which the three are the main ones that you see in front of you. And, again, my challenge to you is if you were to go out and build a cloud system out there without Microsoft, let's say you did it with somebody else, you'd have to put a lot of different companies together to kind of give you the portfolio of technologies that you've got in front of you up there. So, we spend a huge amount of time not just creating new technologies, but actually integrating them together to make them work better together. And the key piece in terms of how we integrate that is all around the identity. And making sure that we're running 365 and you want to use some Azure for backup and you want to do something with CRM. Certainly a lot of universities are doing a huge amount with CRM at the moment because of the £9 grand a year. How do we do something better for students? How do we get that? And we spend huge amounts of money making that work together, whichever cloud platform you're on from Microsoft. And that's a key differentiator for us as you move forward. Just a couple of points on some UK things and then I'll finish because I'm over time. I hope a lot of you have heard about the project we're working on with the BBC. It's called a microbit, or the microbit project. There's a huge investment. Every Year 7 student in the UK, there's about 1 million of them, are going to receive a BBC microbit from the BBC. And they're giving them to the child. The school has to register, and there's websites that you can register your school at. This is all around STEM technology. Our role in this is to provide a lot of the infrastructure. So the lesson plans have already been created, so people could go to that website even before the technology arrives and start playing with the microbit online before the physical product comes. So there's lots and lots of lesson plans. Teachers can start experimenting with it now. This is all around the STEM initiative, all around the computing curriculum. And our investment in this is all this is hosted on Azure in terms of the website and also all the lesson plans and getting involved in training through the Computing in Schools group as well. So lots, and I think about 1,800 teachers have already been trained in this. But it's a really interesting area. The commercial availability of the microbit will come in time as well for other areas of the market and internationally as well. But it's a really exciting project. The kids that we've spoken to and done work with just think it's amazing. And it's just amazing what they can create. The last one, if the clicker will work. It's just making sure you guys are all aware that if you're on a licensing agreement with us, that's an OVS agreement or an ES agreement, which is your annuity payment, if you like, for the use of Windows Office at your school. Just want to make sure everybody knows that if you're under that agreement, then you can and have the right to use Office or give away Office to your students for free of charge. And they can put it onto 5 devices. And the teachers can also get the Office free of charge. Now, if you're not aware of it, I'm sorry we haven't got that message out to you, but I'm trying to get this message out that, you know, for what probably is about 6.8 million students in the UK, both at HE, FE and schools, have the ability to get free Office. I just want to make sure that there's the website there to go and check out if you can get that because of the licensing agreement that you've got with us. So just finally, what do we do? These are the kind of things we do. Obviously, we're focused on the learning and the learning outcomes. But again, a message from Microsoft, you know, gone are the days where it was Windows and Windows only. We integrate a lot of different technologies. You see that with the technologies that are available on an Apple, on an Android, making sure the presentation that Satya did it to 5,000 people, he did from an Apple iPhone last week, which is kind of interesting, just that all the applications on the iPhone were Microsoft. So it just shows how we've changed and how we're integrating what's there. Security, obviously, very important to us, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, I'll hand over, but is there any questions at this stage? Yeah.
You show off the Surface there.
Yeah.
Now, I'd love to do exactly what we want.
Right.
But they're far too expensive for schools to afford.
Yeah.
And the other issue with them is you've sealed them. We want to be able to get at the battery, the
right.
drives, swap the parts out if they die.
Okay.
That would make a lot of difference to us just to be
okay.
able to
so the question,
get inside
just to repeat the question was around the Surface device and how applicable it is for schools, but it's quite expensive. And the ability to take the back off and change things. So on your first question, there are discounts available. You get your final pricing through the channel, but there are education discounts and you should be asking for those. There are volume discounts as well. That is not a product that's going to be a £200 product, ever, okay, in terms of a Surface 3. That's not the market it's at. But to be honest, we're selling thousands of them in the context of schools. So whether some people are being able to find the money or not, I'm not sure. But look, you know, if you want a £200 device, then we've got OEMs that can provide £200 devices. But yeah, in terms of the product itself, I'm not aware that we're going to produce, because they're so thin now, in terms of getting in the back of them, you know.
Dell produces one that you can get in the back
Right.
of, which is just the same thickness.
And if you prefer the Dell products, as long as
I prefer the Microsoft one,
Right.
But we just want to be able to, when the battery dies, change it.
Yeah.
We've sealed them so shut,
Yeah.
there's no
I'm not
fixability.
aware that's going to change, if I'm honest. So, you know,
Again, a
feedback's
school would
welcome.
expect 5 years out of anything
Yeah.
they spend on.
Yeah.
And if it's not gettable, you ain't going to get 5 years out of it, are you?
Yeah. Well,
Especially at the price of them.
yeah.
They don't mind the price of them, but they want 5 years out.
Sure. Well, I would suggest you could get 5 years from them, but I mean, you know, we would want to sell a product obviously that could last that long. So, but I'd take your feedback. Thank you. So I'm aware I've gone over time, but I'm in and out during the day. If anybody wants to provide feedback, any issues, obviously Matt and myself are around. But I'll hand over now for the next presentation. Thank you.